Hello, and thank you so much for inviting me to the Skillman conference. The topic you've chosen, global networking, is the topic of our times. The big challenges in this world all require us to collaborate, to compete, to connect in ways that move our societies, our economies forward. But how do we actually develop those skills? We're all born with an abundance of bonding social capital. We know how to relate to our families, to people who think like us, who look like us, who work like us, the kind of people that we meet on social media these days. But in the real world, there are people who are different from us, who come from different cultures, who think differently. How do we increase our radius of trust to strangers? Learn to collaborate with people who are different from us? Well, I'm going to talk about this. This is something that we looked at our latest assessment of PISA, the Global Competency Assessment. Why is this so important? Because we live in a world that is full of disruptions. Just remember the pandemic. And the future is always going to surprise us. Now, climate change is going to disrupt our lives a lot more than this pandemic. And artificial intelligence puts to a test many of the assumptions that we've taken for granted. Think of education. We know how to educate second-class robots, people who are good at repeating what we told them. But what's going to make us human in this world in which the kind of things that are easy to teach, easy to test, have also become easy to digitize, to automate? Collaboration, our capacity to work with people, certainly is one of those things. But then there are many other drivers that, play into this, that shape our future, that shape, the future for which we need to prepare. And that's always a balancing act, a balancing act between, on the one hand, sustainability, educating people to keep this world in balance, and at the same time also resilience, our capacity to live in an imbalanced world. In our last PISA assessment, we asked school leaders, to what extent are those big global topics embedded in, school curricula, instructional settings. And the picture looks quite, optimistic. You can see that, 9 out of 10 school leaders say in the OECD area, yeah, climate change and global warming is something that we teach quite regularly. Or, gender equality, international conflicts, poverty, migration, hunger, even pandemics. And that was before the pandemic. So you ask school leaders and you think, whatever comes up is already being incorporated into education. But when we ask students, we got a somewhat different picture. Now, on the one hand, you can see here almost 8 out of 10 students say, looking after the global environment is really important to me. Now, those young kids are, for them, the climate agenda is important, is urgent. But when you ask them, can you do something about it? Or do you think what you do is going to make a difference for people in other places? You can see how those bars are getting shorter. And that is a challenge of our day. How do we, help people mobilize the cognitive, social, emotional resources to live with themselves, to live with people who are different from them, to live with this planet now? Let's have a look at this in a little bit more detail. And again, the PISA assessment, try to find out to what extent young people are open to people from other cultures, other ways of thinking. We started by looking at something that we called cognitive adaptability or resilience. And you can say, well, the good majority of students say, I can change my behavior to meet the needs of a new situation. I'm open to the challenge. I can deal with unusual situations. When encountering difficult situations with other people, I can think of a new way to resolve a situation. That sounds all good, but I can easily adapt to a new culture. You can see the bars dropping below the 15% mark now. And of course, this is the average across the OECD area. When you look at this by country, you can see actually that some education systems that are actually doing really well in subjects like mathematics and science, think like Vietnam or Macau and China, you can actually see when it comes to cognitive resilience, those education systems often struggle. And that really shows us that just getting a good degree, just being good in a subject discipline, doesn't give you that, adaptability and resilience by itself. And actually what we found when we analyzed those data in more detail is those things are all interrelated. The capacity of students to be able to take different perspectives was related to their respect for people from other cultures, their attitude towards immigrants, and their cognitive resilience or adaptability. And of course, being able to take perspectives is also an enabler to take an interest in learning about other cultures. And learning about other cultures and respect were again intrinsically linked. So it's worth to have look at those aspects in a bit more detail. Let's look at the ability to engage in open, appropriate, and effective communication across cultures. That's sort of the kind of bedrock of global collaboration. First of all, where do young people actually meet people from other cultures? In their circle of friends, in their family, at school. Now, school is actually a really important place where you encounter people who are different from you. And what we actually found, and that's really interesting, where young people had more contact with people from other countries, you could see they were more positively interested in learning about other cultures. Now, this is not, what you tell to students in a school. This is very much to do about, the actual contact that young people have. Now, their interest is driven by this. Languages, really interesting topic. You can see here that basically in most countries, now students learn at least one, often two languages. The only exceptions is really the English-speaking world, where people may think, well, we don't really need that. But in most countries, actually, education systems make quite a bit of an effort to teach multiple languages. And again, what we found is that speaking two or more languages is not just, great for communication, but it also positively relates to respect for people from other cultures. Languages open, a window to different perspectives, to other cultures. So how do we develop the skills very concretely? That's something that we looked at, where do young people learn about other cultures at school? And when we, talk to school leaders again, you can see in most countries, you can say, yeah, they say students learn about different cultural perspectives on historical or social events. We deal with this. In our school, students learn about the culture, the beliefs, norm, values in a classroom. No? But, when it comes to, do we actually, for example, celebrate festivities from other cultures? Do we engage students actively, immerse them actively in those other things? No? There the world looks very different. The bar gets very short. There are few countries that do that really well. You can look, for example, to Singapore, to Panama, Brazil. But, you take Italy, Switzerland, or Saudi Arabia, where that is really rare. Why do I tell you all of that? Because what we found is that it's actually the number of activities, the things that, people do where they develop the skills, not just what they listen to in a classroom, that makes a difference. No? The more concrete activities students were engaged in relating to the world, the greater their interest in learning about other cultures, the greater their awareness of global issues, the stronger their agency regarding global issues. I can do something about this, the greater their self-efficacy and, their cognitive resilience and adaptability. And that really teaches us something. If we want to get people ready to engage with this complex, volatile, interconnected world, be open to work with people who are different from them, be open to different perspectives, different cultures. No? And this is really where the next innovation typically comes from. We need to build strong foundations for this. And the best foundations for this are laid through concrete activities, through practices where students have their experiences rather than just, listening to someone talking in the classroom. And I know, that's what Skillman has always been about. Thank you very much.